Ladies and gentlemen, it is easy to live in pursuit of comfort. In fact, we are biologically wired to seek it. Comfort is warm, safe, familiar. It whispers to us to avoid struggle, to protect ourselves, to retreat from anything that might hurt, challenge, or change us. But comfort, left unchecked, becomes a trap. It seduces you into smallness. It tempts you to betray your potential. And perhaps worst of all, it convinces you that feeling good is the same as being good. But those two things are not the same. Comfort is one of the most seductive forces in human life. It promises ease, relaxation, and the absence of struggle. It whispers soothing lies that if you avoid pain, you avoid problems. That if you stay in your routine, everything will be fine. That if you avoid risk, you will stay safe. But comfort, left unchecked, becomes an enemy. It may appear harmless, even helpful, but over time it eats away at your potential. It softens your resolve, numbs your instincts, and teaches you to shrink from anything that requires effort. Comfort is addictive because it asks nothing of you. It never confronts, never challenges, never stretches. It makes no demands, and in return, it takes your hunger, your clarity, your growth. This addiction to comfort is particularly dangerous because it is disguised as normalcy. Society doesn't condemn comfort, it encourages it. You are told to pursue it, to build your life around it. Get the easy job, avoid confrontation, do what feels good, follow your heart. These phrases are repeated so often that they become the script by which people live their lives. But living by comfort is like living in a warm bath. Sooner or later, it dulls your senses, and if you stay too long, you stop noticing how little you're actually moving forward. Growth never occurs in comfort. Think of every important lesson you've ever learned. It likely came through discomfort, pain, or pressure. A difficult relationship, a personal failure, a professional setback. These moments are not pleasant, but they shape you. They force you to reflect, to adapt, to become more than you were. The person who lives for comfort resents these moments. They avoid them, complain about them, or retreat from them. The person who understands the shallowness of comfort leans into these moments, not because they enjoy suffering, but because they understand that growth demands it. Comfort is shallow because it cannot sustain meaning. You may feel good for a while, but it fades quickly. What remains is a lingering sense of emptiness, a quiet dissatisfaction you can't quite explain. That is the price of living without challenge. You become emotionally underdeveloped, intellectually fragile, and morally indifferent. You may not even realize it because everything feels fine. But fine is the language of decay. Fine is where dreams go to die slowly. Choosing to abandon comfort as your highest goal is not easy. It requires a fundamental shift in how you view your life. Instead of asking, "What will make me feel good?" you begin asking, "What will make me stronger? What will make me more truthful? What will make me someone I can respect?" Those are painful questions because they often lead you to action, to accountability, to discomfort. But they also lead you to meaning. There is nothing wrong with moments of rest or pleasure. But when comfort becomes the pattern of your life, you are no longer living. You are avoiding. You are choosing a numbed existence over a meaningful one. And while that may be easier, it is not better. You will wake up one day and wonder why you feel so disconnected from yourself, why your life feels flat, why you're surrounded by safety and yet haunted by dissatisfaction. The answer will not be found in more comfort. It will be found in the exact opposite. In responsibility, in difficulty, in doing what you've been avoiding. Comfort is not your friend. It is a tool, something to be used wisely and in small doses. But when it becomes your master, it takes more than it gives. It robs you of the one thing that makes life worth living, the chance to become someone more than you are. If you want to live a life of depth, stop chasing what is easy. Start facing what is necessary. Because the greatest lives are not built in comfort. They are forged in fire. We like to imagine that being good is easy, that it's simply a matter of being nice, doing no harm, and smiling when appropriate. But this is a fantasy. Goodness, real, deep, transformative goodness, demands far more than sentiment. It demands sacrifice. It's not something you feel, it's something you do, often at great cost. Being good is not about going along with the crowd or avoiding conflict. It's about standing firm when everything in you wants to bend. It's about paying the price for your principles when it would be much easier to walk away. Sacrifice is the dividing line between people who like the idea of goodness and people who live it. Because when being good means losing something, your time, your comfort, your reputation, your security, that's when the truth comes out. Are you good when it's convenient, or are you good when it hurts? Everyone wants to be seen as a good person, but few are willing to carry the weight that goodness demands. That weight is responsibility. That weight is restraint. That weight is discipline, and none of it is easy. In a world obsessed with convenience and comfort, sacrifice is a foreign language. We are told that if something costs us, it's probably not worth it, that if it doesn't feel right, we shouldn't do it. But this thinking leads to a shallow morality, one that bends to feelings and avoids friction. Goodness is not always pleasant. In fact, it rarely is. It often puts you in direct conflict with what feels good in the short term. It asks you to delay gratification, to say no when your impulses scream yes, to speak up when silence would be easier. Consider the sacrifices made by those we admire most in history: reformers, leaders, saints, even everyday people who stood for something greater than themselves. They didn't become who they were by following their emotions. They didn't retreat when the cost of doing right became high. They moved forward anyway, not because it was comfortable, but because it was necessary. That is the essence of moral courage, choosing what is right over what is easy, and sacrifice doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it means choosing your family over your ambitions. Sometimes it means telling someone the truth they don't want to hear. Sometimes it means letting go of a comfortable life to pursue a higher purpose. Every act of true goodness costs something, and the greater the good, the greater the cost. The irony is that people who sacrifice for what is right often live the most fulfilled lives. Not because they're constantly happy, but because they are deeply grounded. They know who they are. They sleep well at night because they didn't sell their soul for ease. Their suffering has meaning. Their actions have weight. Their presence has authority. These are people you trust, not because they tell you what you want to hear, but because they do what's hard when it matters most. If you want to live a good life, you must prepare to bleed for it. You must expect to be misunderstood. You must be willing to lose what the world values: comfort, applause, approval, for the sake of what is eternal: truth, integrity, and love. The world doesn't need more agreeable people. It needs people who can suffer well for what is right. People who will carry burdens they didn't ask for because it's the right thing to do. Sacrifice is not the enemy of happiness. It is the path to meaning. And meaning is what gives your life gravity, purpose, and strength. So don't run from sacrifice. Lean into it. Let it shape you, because in the end, what you give up for what is good becomes the very thing that makes your life worth living. People love to say they value truth, but what they usually mean is that they value comfortable truths that align with their beliefs, protect their ego, and allow them to remain unchanged. But real truth doesn't behave that way. Real truth is disruptive. It confronts, it exposes, and it demands. It doesn't ask for your permission. It doesn't wait for the right time, and it doesn't care about your feelings. That's what makes truth so powerful and so terrifying. It is the enemy of comfort because it refuses to let you stay the same. The truth will show you things you don't want to see. It will call out the lies you've told yourself to survive. It will uncover the parts of you that are lazy, afraid, manipulative, or small. It doesn't coddle, it doesn't sugarcoat, but this is precisely why truth is necessary. Because without it, there can be no real growth. You cannot become stronger by ignoring your weaknesses. You cannot become wise by avoiding reality. And you cannot live a meaningful life by pretending everything is fine when it isn't. Most people don't reject the truth because it's false. They reject it because it's painful. It threatens their comfort. It tells them you're not as good as you think you are. You're lying to yourself. You've wasted time. You're avoiding responsibility. These aren't easy things to hear. So what do we do instead? We rationalize, we distract ourselves, we surround ourselves with people who will tell us what we want to hear. We build emotional echo chambers and call it peace, but it's not peace, it's self-deception. The longer you run from the truth, the weaker you become, because every time you avoid facing something uncomfortable, you train your mind to retreat instead of respond. You start building your identity on illusions rather than reality. You tell yourself stories to justify your stagnation, and eventually you forget where the truth even was. This is not freedom, it's psychological decay. And the tragic part is that many people live their entire lives this way, never realizing how much of themselves they've sacrificed on the altar of comfort. But when you finally confront the truth, really confront it, you begin to reclaim your life. It won't feel good at first. It will feel like a breakdown, a reckoning, a collapse of everything you thought was stable. But what's really collapsing is the false version of you, the version built to keep you safe rather than strong. And from that collapse comes clarity. From that pain comes power. You begin to see clearly, act courageously, and move forward without needing to lie to yourself anymore. The truth is a mirror. It doesn't flatter, but it reveals. And when you finally look into it without flinching, you become dangerous. In the best way, because now you can't be manipulated by false praise or intimidated by criticism. You're no longer at the mercy of other people's opinions. You've seen what's real, you've endured the weight of it, and that weight has made you solid. A society that fears truth will collapse under the weight of its own delusions, but a person who embraces truth, no matter how uncomfortable, becomes a foundation. Someone others can trust, follow, and respect. So don't avoid what's difficult to hear. Don't flinch when reality hits. Let it hit. Let it challenge you. Let it strip away what's false so that what's real can finally emerge. Comfort lies to you. Truth saves you. One makes you feel good in the moment. The other makes you good for life. Choose the one that hurts now but heals forever. Because in the end, it is better to be wounded by truth than to be destroyed by a lie you chose to believe. Every time you choose what's easy over what's necessary, you lose a little bit of yourself. The easy path looks appealing. It promises comfort, speed, simplicity. It tells you why struggle when you don't have to, why confront when you can ignore, why lead when you can follow. And for a moment, it feels like relief. But the easy path always has a hidden cost. Your strength. It doesn't just delay your growth, it actively works against it. It weakens your mind, softens your will, and dulls your character. What begins as a shortcut eventually becomes a dead end. The truth is, ease is not your ally, struggle is. The challenges you avoid are the very ones that were meant to forge you. When you refuse to do hard things, you deny yourself the very pressure required to develop resilience. Muscles don't grow without resistance. Minds don't sharpen without effort. And character doesn't form without sacrifice. The easy path tells you that you're okay the way you are. The hard path demands that you become more. You are not designed for passivity. You are made to bear weight, to lift it, to carry it, to grow under its pressure. Every time you choose discomfort for the sake of a higher good, you take back your life from the forces that want to keep you small. But when you repeatedly choose ease, sleeping in instead of rising with discipline, escaping through distraction instead of facing your fear, blaming instead of taking ownership, you slowly build a life of quiet desperation. And what's worse, you convince yourself that it's normal. The easy path also lies. It disguises itself as wisdom. It says, don't make life harder than it needs to be. And yes, there is wisdom in efficiency. But ease is not efficiency. It's avoidance. Wisdom doesn't avoid effort, it directs it. Choosing the hard way doesn't mean choosing the complicated way. It means choosing the right way even when it hurts. That could mean telling the truth when silence is easier, holding the line when the crowd walks away, taking responsibility when blame would feel better. These are not glamorous choices. They are lonely, difficult, and painful. But they build strength in places you didn't even know were weak. Over time, choosing the hard path becomes a habit. You stop running from difficulty. You start walking straight into it. Not because you enjoy pain, but because you know what's on the other side. That's where the real power is, doing what most won't, so you can become what most never will. Your mind grows sharper, your spirit grows heavier, your words gain weight. People begin to respect you not because you seek approval, but because you've earned it. Meanwhile, those who cling to the easy path grow bitter. They resent the success of others. They justify their weakness by calling it kindness or acceptance. They label discomfort as toxic, and responsibility as unfair. But deep down they know they chose the path of least resistance and that it cost them something sacred. They feel the emptiness even if they can't name it. They wonder why they lack confidence, why they fear conflict, why life feels flat. And the answer is simple. They took the easy way again and again until there was nothing left inside to fight for. So reject ease, not in every moment, but as a way of life. Choose the hard conversation. Choose the early morning. Choose the workout. Choose the apology. Choose the principle. Choose the path that forces you to grow. Not because it's heroic, but because it's necessary. Because your future self is watching. And that version of you, the stronger, wiser, more capable version, doesn't come from choosing comfort. It comes from choosing what hurts now so that you can carry what matters later. Let others waste their lives avoiding the hard road. Yours is to walk it, with fire in your chest and truth in your stride. Because ease is for the fragile. You are not fragile. Suffering is inevitable. That's not a pessimistic view, it's a fact of existence. Pain, loss, failure, disappointment, these things will find you no matter how carefully you plan, how cautiously you live, or how many comforts you surround yourself with. But the presence of suffering alone doesn't define your life. What does define it is how you respond. When suffering is meaningless, it destroys. When suffering has purpose, it builds. It transforms pain into power, wounds into wisdom, and endurance into identity. It's not suffering itself that gives life meaning. It's suffering that is aimed towards something greater than yourself. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid pain. They dodge responsibility, back away from challenges, and seek comfort at any cost. They believe happiness lies in ease, but ease is empty. It fades as soon as circumstances change. The truth is, meaning doesn't come from pleasure. It comes from bearing a load, from willingly accepting hardship in service of a purpose you believe in. That's where the human spirit becomes real. That's where character is formed, not in comfort, but in the furnace of struggle. Think of the moments in your life when you felt most alive, most proud, most grounded. Were those moments easy? Were they soft, safe, and painless? Of course not. They were hard. They were forged in pressure, maybe even heartbreak, and yet they shaped you. That's the paradox of human existence. The thing we fear most, suffering, is the very thing that gives our life depth. Not all suffering is good, but the decision to suffer for something is what turns chaos into meaning. There's a reason soldiers, parents, athletes, and survivors all speak of their suffering with reverence. It didn't break them, it built them, not because pain is inherently good, but because they chose to face it with purpose. They didn't suffer as victims, they suffered as warriors. They didn't merely endure, they grew. Their suffering became a story, a source of strength, a foundation, and when that happens, life becomes more than just tolerable. It becomes significant. Purposeful suffering is not glamorous. It often looks like waking up before dawn to work toward a goal no one sees. It looks like staying in the fight when quitting would be easier. It looks like carrying emotional pain without using it as an excuse. It looks like staying true to your values when the world pressures you to abandon them. None of that feels good in the moment, but it builds a soul that is rooted, a soul that doesn't get blown away by every wind of doubt or fear. The modern world tells you that life is about feeling good, that if something makes you uncomfortable, you should run from it, that suffering is a problem to be fixed, not a path to be walked. But this mindset creates fragile people. People who collapse at the first sign of adversity, people who never learn the strength that only comes from carrying something heavy. And when life inevitably becomes painful, as it always does, they have no anchor, no why, no foundation. You need a reason to suffer. You need a reason that is bigger than your ego, your reputation, your comfort. That reason is what gives the pain its power. Whether it's to protect your family, honor your values, pursue excellence, or serve others, your purpose must be worthy of your pain. Because when it is, no amount of suffering can stop you. You may hurt, but you will not quit. You may fall, but you will rise better. That is the difference between meaningless suffering and meaningful sacrifice. So don't fear suffering. Fear wasting it. Fear letting it pass through you without leaving anything stronger behind. You can suffer in bitterness, or you can suffer in purpose. One will destroy you. The other will define you. Choose wisely, because the man or woman who suffers with meaning cannot be broken. They are not victims of life. They are its authors. We live in a time where goodness is often confused with passivity, where being nice is mistaken for being virtuous, and where avoiding conflict is praised more than standing for what's right. But true goodness is not a mood, a smile, or a vague intention. It is a decision, a disciplined, often painful decision to carry the weight of what is yours. Goodness begins with responsibility. Without it, everything collapses into chaos, internally and externally. Responsibility is the spine of moral life. It is what separates the coward from the courageous, the talker from the doer, the dreamer from the one who builds. To be good, you must be someone who shows up. Not just when it's easy or when you're in the mood, but when it's necessary. Responsibility means accepting the fact that what happens in your life, your home, your community, these things are not someone else's problem. They are yours, and that doesn't mean you are to blame for every injustice or failure. It means you are called to act, to fix what you can, to improve what's broken, to speak when silence becomes complicity. The person who avoids responsibility may avoid stress for a while, but they also avoid meaning, because nothing meaningful in life exists without the willingness to bear weight. Responsibility is not glamorous. No one applauds you for doing what is necessary. You won't go viral for being dependable. You won't always be thanked for keeping your word, cleaning up a mess you didn't make, or standing firm when everyone else folds. But these small acts of discipline are what build the foundation of a good life. They are the bricks of integrity, and one by one, they form the walls that protect your character from the storms of life. A culture that abandons responsibility falls apart quickly. It becomes loud with blame and quiet with action. Everyone points fingers, no one picks up the load. People demand rights without earning them. They want rewards without effort, change without sacrifice, results without discipline. But a healthy society and a healthy soul is built by people who stop asking, whose fault is this? And start asking, what can I do? That shift in perspective marks the beginning of maturity. And maturity is the soil in which true goodness grows. Responsibility doesn't mean taking on everything. It means taking ownership of what is yours. Your habits, your decisions, your reactions, your work, your relationships. You become a steward of your own existence, not a victim of your circumstances. And from that grounded place, you can begin to take responsibility for more, for your family, for your community, for your voice in the world. This is not arrogance, it's dignity, it's a refusal to live passively, it's the belief that your choices matter. Goodness without responsibility is sentimental and shallow. It doesn't survive pressure. But goodness built on responsibility is fierce. It's not afraid to say no. It doesn't crumble in the face of resistance. It speaks truth even when that truth is uncomfortable, and it acts, not because it is easy, but because it is right. This kind of goodness doesn't need praise because it's not about appearance, it's about substance, it's about a deep internal agreement with reality, that life is not about what you can get, but what you can give. When you start living with responsibility, people will notice, not always with applause, but with trust. You become someone others can depend on, someone whose presence brings order, not chaos. And over time, your life takes on weight, moral weight. That weight is not a burden, it's your strength, it anchors you, it clarifies your purpose, it shapes your identity, and it gives you something that comfort and convenience never will, a sense that your life actually matters. So take up the load, carry what's yours, and become the kind of person whose goodness is not just felt, but proven, through action, through sacrifice, and through responsibility. Comfort doesn't last. It's fleeting by nature. It comes and goes with the weather, with the mood, with the season of life. One day, everything feels manageable. The next, the rug is pulled out from under you. Comfort is a temporary illusion that tells you things will stay the same, that stability is guaranteed, that if you avoid the hard things, you'll stay safe. But life doesn't work that way. The world changes. People change, circumstances shift, and when comfort vanishes, and it will, what's left is whatever you've built in its place, and that thing is called character. Character is not about being nice. It's not about being well, liked or agreeable or admired. Character is about being whole, being solid, being anchored in something deeper than your emotions, deeper than your surroundings. It's the invisible structure that holds you up when everything else falls apart. And unlike comfort, character doesn't run when life gets hard. It shows up, it stands firm, it speaks truth. It chooses what's right even when it costs you. That's the kind of person people trust. Not the one who avoids tension, but the one who holds fast under pressure. There's a strange irony in life. The more you chase comfort, the more fragile you become. The more you avoid discomfort, the less capable you are of handling it. You build a life on sand. But when you pursue the building of character, when you choose the hard things, the honest things, the responsible things, you lay down rock. You form a foundation. That doesn't mean you'll always feel good. It means you'll be ready when things go bad, and that readiness, that quiet strength, is something no one can take from you. People spend years arranging their lives for maximum comfort. They buy things, accumulate conveniences, avoid conflict, escape from pain. But none of that prepares them for real life, because real life will come. Death, betrayal, failure, hardship. And when it does, it will not ask you how much you've avoided pain. It will ask, who are you underneath it all? What have you become in the absence of ease? If all you've built is comfort, you will collapse. If you've built character, you will endure. Character is not built in good times. It's built when things are uncertain. When you have to choose between what's easy and what's right. When no one is watching, and you still decide to act with integrity. When your emotions scream one thing, but your principles demand another. Those moments define you, not how you feel when everything is going well, but who you are when everything is on the line. That's when character is tested, and that's when it either breaks or holds. Comfort teaches you to avoid pain. Character teaches you to walk through it. Comfort asks you to stay the same. Character demands that you grow. Comfort whispers lies to keep you still. Character shouts truth that moves you forward. So ask yourself honestly, what are you building your life on? Is it fleeting comfort or enduring strength? The greatest people you'll ever meet aren't the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who developed resilience, patience, clarity, and courage through pain. They are not hardened, they are refined. Their joy isn't shallow, it's earned. Their confidence isn't arrogance, it's the result of surviving the furnace of life without giving up their soul. You sense something unshakable in them, something rare. That thing is character. When your comfort disappears, and one day it will, what will be left of you? Will you crumble with it, or will you rise on something stronger? Comfort flees, but character remains. Build the thing that stays, because in the end the storms will come, the lights will go out, and the applause will fade. But if you've built a life of character, you will still be standing, and that, more than anything, is what makes a life worth living.